Hey guys, it's Sagar, and in this video, I'm going to compare the cameras on this iPhone 17 with the ones on the iPhone 16. I know a lot of you are trying to decide between these two phones, and for many, the decision comes down to its cameras. So in this video, I'm going to show you over 200 image and video samples from both these phones combined, so you can see how each of them perform in various lighting conditions. Before we get to the image and video samples, here is a quick look at the cameras on both these phones. Both of them get just two cameras at the back, so this part won't take too much time. iPhone 16 gets a 48 megapixel camera with f1.6 aperture, 26mm lens and sensor shift image stabilization. Second camera on this phone gets a 12 megapixel sensor, f2.2 aperture and a 13mm ultra-wide angle lens. This camera also gets autofocus and it can set focus on extremely close-up objects, so it also lets you take macro shots. iPhone 17 gets the pretty much same 48 megapixel camera with f1.6 aperture, 26mm lens and sensor shift image stabilization as the iPhone 16's main camera. But for the second camera, it now gets an upgraded 48 megapixel sensor with f2.2 aperture and 13mm wide lens. And just like with the iPhone 16, you can take macro shots with this ultra wide angle camera as well. So the iPhone 17 now gets dual 48 megapixel cameras, and with the ability of taking ultra wide angle shots, we could say that the dual cameras on both these phones act like a triple camera setup. At the front, iPhone 16 comes with a 12 megapixel sensor with f1.9 aperture and 23mm wide lens. This camera has been unchanged for the last 3 years and was in dire need of an upgrade, and Apple brought in that upgrade on the iPhone 17. Now it gets a 18 megapixel sensor with f1.9 aperture and a 20mm ultra wide angle lens behind its front facing camera. It did not just gain 6 extra megapixels, but the actual sensor got 2 times bigger as well, and it's now a square sensor which lets us do some cool things which I will talk about in more detail when we look at the images and videos from these selfie cameras. Now let us head over to comparing the images from both these phones, starting with the ones which I took with their main cameras during the daytime. Both these shots look good, and rightly so, as they are being captured with pretty much the same camera on both these phones. Any difference that we are going to see will be purely based on each phone's image processing. Now when I pay a bit more attention, I feel like the iPhone 17's image is showing slightly more pleasing colors, but the difference is very minute. Again, both these shots look very good and identical to begin with. It just feels like the iPhone 17 tried to capture a bit more contrast in its images, whereas the iPhone 16 is trying to lift up the shadows a bit more, which resulted in the mid-tones in its images appear slightly faded, at least in this particular shot. This is a nice shot from both the phones in bright lighting conditions. The sky is nice and blue in both the images, but again, I feel like the iPhone 17's image is a bit more accurate with the colors, whereas the iPhone 16's image has a very slight green tint in it. The difference is not huge, and I'm sure I wouldn't have noticed it unless I was comparing the images side by side. Although both these phones have 48 megapixel sensors behind their main cameras, the images that they capture by default are binned 24 megapixel ones. This makes sure that there is a ton of information in each of their shots while keeping the file sizes under check. Even when I'm zooming in 300% on these images, you can read the names of the books in both the shots without any issue. So both are capturing similar amount of information and details in their shots, at least from the main camera. All in all, I would say the main camera on both these phones perform very similar when it comes to daytime shots. iPhone 16 captures slightly less contrast, whereas the iPhone 7 tries to capture the shot as it was. Sometimes that results the shadows appearing a bit darker, but in most of the cases, this is how the scene actually appeared with my own eyes, so I'm actually preferring its images in these conditions. For most of the daytime indoor lighting conditions, I feel like the images look almost identical from both the phones, and an average person will find it extremely difficult to say that one of these images is actually better than the other. When it comes to colors, I feel like the iPhone 17 is capturing slightly more lively looking colors. I mean, just look at these images. The green color in the leaves in the background looks slightly better in its images compared to the iPhone 16. Same with this shot. The color of the car appears a bit more saturated or lively in the iPhone 17's image. Don't get me wrong, it is not saturating the colors more than what you could see with your own eyes. It's just that when I look at both these images, the colors from the iPhone 17's camera look a bit more pleasing. I am not going to keep on repeating this for every shot. Although both the phones are having the same image sensor, we do see a difference between the colors in their final images. I feel like the processing on the iPhone 17 is trying to make the shots appear slightly more attractive. In some cases, it is adding a bit more warmth to the scene, making it pop out compared to the images from the iPhone 16, while in others, it is adding a bit more contrast and avoiding the green tint which we are still seeing in some of the shots from the iPhone 16. So it is not like the iPhone 17 is just playing with the saturation, contrast and warmth in all of the shots. Somehow, the processor knows what each of these images need and it tweaks them accordingly, making its image look better than the ones from the iPhone 16. I mean, this is what I feel. But color is a personal choice And some people might even like the approach which the iPhone 16 is taking, or some of you might not even notice that big of a difference in the colors between these shots. Whatever might be the case, you should look at these images and go with the phone whose colors look the best to you. Now let us move our attention to the HDR shots. This might not be the best image out of either of these phones, but I still wanted to share it so we know that neither of these phones are perfect when it comes to their cameras. If we look at the image from the iPhone 16, the flower is in focus, but it and the leaves behind are very dark, and that is because we had the sun right behind the leaves here. So while the main camera on the iPhone 16 did not manage to bring up the light on the flower all that well, it still did well to not let the bright sky in the background to blow out in its shot. iPhone 17 also didn't let the sky blow out, and it also managed to capture a lot more light which was hitting the flowers and the leaves behind it, making the overall image look more pleasing. But if you look closer, it failed to set the focus on the flower, and this leaf behind it is in focus. So HDR wise, iPhone 17 did well in this shot, but iPhone 16 was able to set the focus on the subject, which is equally important in any shot. Now moving on to the next set of images, I had Monica standing in the shade of the tree here, and the sun was shining very bright just above us, so there were a lot of shadows where I was taking this shot. It was a very high AQI day in Pune, so the sky that you see in the background was exactly how it looked in real life. So both the phones did well with the brighter part of the shot. But you can clearly see iPhone 17 did much better with the shadows. It not only brought up a lot of details on the shadows, but also handled the colors in a much better way. iPhone 16 on the other hand managed to get a faded look on Monica's face in efforts of bringing up the shadows. In this shot, I feel like both the phones did an excellent job. The sun is managed really well, and both the phones didn't let the sky blow away, while at the same time, there are a lot of details being captured in the rest of the shadowed region of the shots as well. Same in this shot, both did really well here. So the iPhone 17 is not ahead of the iPhone 16 in every situation. More often than not, images from both these phones look really similar. In this shot, again both seem to have handled the brighter parts outside the window like champions, but the iPhone 17 seems to have done slightly better with the shadows, which you can see if you look at this part of the images here. Both phones are excellent at setting the focus on nearby objects for taking close-up shots. You just have to point both of them towards the subject and they are ready with the focus. You don't have to wait while the camera hunts for the focus. Since both phones get huge 48 megapixel sensors and wide f1.6 aperture, you can see very nice, smooth and creamy bokeh in the background of these close-up shots. And they also have the same lens and sensor combo, so the minimum focusing distance for both the phones is the same. What this means is, you can get equally close to your subject on both these phones and they will still be able to set the focus on them accurately and very quickly. Now in this shot, the flower was moving around with the wind, so we see it being slightly away in the iPhone 17's close-up shot. Now that I think about it, I am really impressed with how well the iPhone 17 froze this moment, because the wind was really high and the whole branch was moving around a lot. Well, this is as close as we can get to a subject for the close-up shots on both these phones. Any closer than this and the cameras won't set the focus. But don't worry, if you would like to get even closer to your subjects, both these phones offer macro mode which will let you get as close to your subject as you want. You can have your phone switch to this mode automatically when you get too close to your subject, or you can have it set to manual and turn it on only when you want to capture macro shots. This is how I have mine set. For these shots, both the phones switch to their ultra-wide angle cameras. Macro shots look incredible from both the phones, but since the iPhone 17 captures them with a 48 megapixel sensor, we see more information and details in its images. And despite of having a huge image sensor, you can actually get a centimeter or so closer to the subject with the iPhone 17, which is great for macro shots. Whichever phone you go with, make sure to take these macro shots in very well lit conditions, else you will see a lot of noise in them, especially from the ones coming out of the iPhone 16. It takes a lot of time and effort for taking these image and video samples, and if you guys appreciate that, it will be really amazing if you could like this video and share it with your friends and family who are maybe looking to get either of these phones, or just share it so the YouTube algorithm picks it up and recommends it to more people. Thank you. Other than for taking macro shots, you can switch to the ultra-wide angle lens when you want to capture more of the scene on both the phones. As I mentioned in the specifications, iPhone 16 gets a 12 megapixel sensor behind its wide camera, whereas the iPhone 17 now gets a 48 megapixel sensor behind it. So the newer phone is definitely capturing more information, and its resulting images are 24 megapixel binned ones to keep the file sizes in check, just like from its main camera. Now you might not be able to tell if one of these have captured more information than the other in these wide shots when you look at them from so far. But when I zoom in on both the shots, you can definitely see that iPhone 16's images are not as sharp as the ones from the iPhone 17. And rest of the things like the colors and dynamic range is similar to their respective main cameras. So colors from the iPhone 17's wide camera are again ever so slightly better. Now there is a slight difference between the colors from both these phones, but colors between their respective main and wide cameras are pretty much the same. So both of them are very uniform in those regards. When we are not zooming in, you might not be able to tell that the iPhone 16's wide shot don't have as many details. So if you don't use the ultra wide camera all that much, or you don't planning on zooming on your images so much, you could go ahead with the iPhone 16 and still be able to capture good looking wide shots. But if you know that you are going to be using this lens a lot and maybe zooming in, especially in less than ideal lighting conditions, then go with the iPhone 17. Both these phones don't have a telephoto lens, but they still give you the 2x zoom options along with 0.5x and 1x in the camera app. While these are technically digitally zoomed in shots, they are actually cropped in from the middle 12 megapixel portion of the 48 megapixel sensor. And Apple says that there is no difference between these 12 megapixel 2x digitally zoomed in ones and the ones which can be clicked with the actual 12 megapixel 2x telephoto lenses. What all this means is, although they don't have a third telephoto lens, you can still take incredibly detailed 2x zoomed in shots from both of them. When I zoom in on these shots even further, we can see image processing on the iPhone 17 makes its image look slightly sharper and detailed. But the difference is not very easily noticeable, and I had to zoom in 400% on these images to notice it. So we can safely say that 2x zoomed in shots look almost the same from both the phones. But if you want to zoom in any further, then iPhone 17 does a slightly better job. Coming back to the 1x shots on the main camera, you can switch to the 48 megapixel mode as well. And these images are at least 4 times larger in terms of file sizes compared to the 24 megapixel ones. What this means is, these images capture a ton of more information and details in them. You will of course have to zoom way in to notice any of those extra details, but when you are capturing some landscape or shots of some architecture, these extra bit of details comes in very handy. The 48 megapixel mode actually lets you shoot freely and not worry about framing, as you can always crop in the shot to make the framing look good later on, and the cropped in shot will still have a ton of details. Since both the phones have the exact same image sensor, we should see them capturing same amount of information. But in some cases, we see iPhone 17's images being slightly sharper and having more details when I zoom in 1000% on both these images. Its images also has less noise and the colors also seem to be more accurate. In some of the shots where there is plenty of light, the difference in details might not be very apparent. But in scenarios where the light is less than ideal, we definitely see the images from the iPhone 17 holding on to much more details. This tells us that despite of the megapixel count of the image sensor being the same, it is the image processing which matters the most in making the final image look good. So while iPhone 17 does capture more details in its high resolution shots, I doubt that most of you will ever be in the situation when you want to zoom in so much on an image. So even if you go with the iPhone 16, you would be able to take pretty detailed 48 megapixel shots. Remember, its images only started looking softer when I zoomed in 1000% and compared them side by side with the ones from the iPhone 17. Let us now check out the portrait mode images. I personally love to take these images, and almost 80% of my images when I have people in the shot are shot in this mode. So any phone's portrait performance is really important for me. Now since the last couple of years, you don't actually have to switch to the portrait mode for taking these shots. Whenever both the phones detect a face in the shot, it automatically starts to capture the depth information as well, and you can make a normal photo into a portrait shot with just a couple of taps in the Photos app. While that is the case, I still like to switch to the portrait mode when I'm capturing these shots. I personally like to make sure that the parts of the subject which I want to be in focus are actually in focus. The end results has much better edge reduction than how it looks in the viewfinder when you're taking these images, but it still gives me a rough idea of how the shot will turn out in the end. Anyways, all that being said, you can see that these portrait shots look amazing from both the phones. The edge detection is almost perfect from both, and the background is also very nicely blurred out. Colors again look a bit warmer in the shots from the iPhone 17, and I don't know about you guys, but I like this look over the one from the iPhone 16. That being said, I feel like the iPhone 16 is also doing an excellent job with these portrait shots. Some of these have been clicked indoors under artificial light, but even then you won't see too much noise in either of their portrait shots. The overall experience of taking these images was also similar. They both were equally quick at detecting the edges, and both of them were pretty much ready with the edge detection by the time I was looking to press the shutter button. You can adjust the amount of blur to the background, and I feel like something like f3.5 or f4.0 gets the best results if you are this far away from your subject. If you are more than 6 or 7 feet away from your subject, then you should switch to f2.8 for best results. On both these phones, you can take 2x and 3x zoomed in portrait shots as well. Since neither of these phones have telephoto cameras, these ones are digitally zoomed in shots, but they still look really good, sharp and detailed, especially the 2x zoomed in ones. Apple uses some computational photography magic and somehow mimics the effect of a true zoom or a telephoto lens. They somehow manage to bring the background elements closer when you switch to a 2x or a 3x portrait mode, and this is surprising as this effect is mostly achieved only via real optical zoom lenses. 2x zoomed in portrait shots look equally sharp from both the phones, but the 3x ones are definitely sharper from the iPhone 17. Overall, I had an amazing time shooting portraits with both these phones. While the newer iPhone 17 is quick and accurate with these shots, I did not feel like the iPhone 16 was lagging behind in any noticeable way, except with the 3x zoomed in portraits, where the iPhone 17 was slightly faster at detecting the edges and also has slightly more details in its images. That is the only place where the iPhone 16 maybe took a few milliseconds or half a second extra. But I noticed this only because I was using both these phones back to back. In any other scenario, I wouldn't have been able to spot the difference. So for taking portrait shots, I loved both these phones. They are equally quick, accurate and good while taking portrait shots of objects as well. Both don't hesitate even when the object has irregular or complex edges and are quick to detect the edges. A lot of times, I prefer taking portraits of objects instead of close-up shots, as these let me have the background nice and blurry even if I am not too close to the subject. iPhone 16 only struggled with a couple of these shots when there was bright background behind the subject. It missed the focus on a couple of occasions in these cases, and I had to take the shot 2 or 3 times. If I wouldn't have checked the images right after clicking them, I wouldn't have known that the focus was missed until it was too late. So in situations like these, I was glad that I could rely a bit more on the iPhone 17 as it did not show any such signs. But those were just a couple of specific scenarios, and leaving that aside, I did not feel like the iPhone 16 was lacking too much compared to the iPhone 17, at least while taking portrait shots. It is now time to turn down the lights and see how these cameras perform in artificial and lower lighting conditions. Both phones get big image sensors and wide aperture, so they don't have any issues capturing a lot of information in these lighting conditions. We saw this last year with the iPhone 16 that it is a lot better than the iPhone 14 and 15 when it comes to handling the noise in these situations. iPhone 17 is no different. In fact, its image processing helps it reduce the noise even further without making everything in the shot appear a bit softer. So even when I zoom in on these shots, everything stays crisp and sharp. iPhone 16 is also doing a great job in these lighting conditions. They both continue to do a stellar job if the lighting conditions get even lower. But now we see iPhone 17's images starting to appear a bit brighter, which means its sensor is capturing more light and the image processing is able to bring out more details without letting any of the noise creep into the shot. You will see this in most of the shots going forward. iPhone 16 is also doing a great job with these shots. But when we look closer, we see that the iPhone 17 is bringing up slightly more details in the darker parts. You can see that with these leaves over here and on the back side of these solar panels. Well, this is the case, I think I am noticing these differences because I am comparing the two shots side by side and trying to look for them. If I was looking at these images from both the phones individually, I doubt I would be able to say that shadows from the iPhone 16 look more darker. So what I am trying to say is, when you look at both these images individually, I think both of them are doing an equally good job. There is a slight green tint in some of the shots on the iPhone 16. I think that is due to the white light, which sometimes has a green hue to them. That being said, iPhone 17 is compensating for that said light source and it is making the colors appear as they should. Like the bricks in this case are looking more natural in the iPhone 17's image than they do in the shots on the iPhone 16. But this is a small issue and appears in just a few of the shots on the iPhone 16. And I'm sure most of the people won't even be able to notice it. And even if you do, you can just as easily correct it by adjusting the tilt slider from inside the editor in the Photos app. This is a very tough condition as the light sign was extremely bright. You can see a bit of foggy or halo effect around the sign from the iPhone 16's image, whereas iPhone 17 has done really well to avoid that and had a much cleaner looking image. That being said, both were not able to get rid of the lens flare caused due to the light source. I feel like this issue has been reduced to a large effect in the last couple of years, but this thing is still present in your shots if you have a light source directly in the frame. Now this is due to the light hitting and reflecting over different lenses within the camera module, and Apple just hasn't been able to get rid of it. I just hope that they find some way to completely get rid of these. Other than the lens flare issue, I'm really satisfied with how the low light shots from both these phones turned out. Yes, ones from the iPhone 17 are slightly brighter and have a bit more details in the shadows compared to the ones from the iPhone 16. But overall, I feel like low light shots look good from both the phones. None of them go overboard to brighten up the image to a point where all we could see in the darker part is noise or grain. I let both these phones decide when they needed to switch to the night mode, and when they do, both of them make sure to bring back a lot of light. But at the same time, they make sure that the night shot appear as they have been captured during the night time, instead of making them look like daytime shots, like some of the Android phones do. Now we might see similar light and information in both the images, but the iPhone 16 took about 2-second exposure time for all of these shots, whereas the iPhone 17 captured the same information in just 1 second. Again, this goes to show that even if the sensor is the same, it is the image processing which plays a bigger hand in how the end result will turn out. In this particular shot, iPhone 16 tried to brighten the shadows a bit too much, giving a faded look to the entire shot, whereas the iPhone 17 makes the shot look very well balanced. Leaving 1 or 2 instances, I feel like the main camera on the iPhone 16 is doing just as good as the iPhone 17 in these conditions. It takes a second or two extra to capture these shots, and if we zoom way in, we might find more noise in its shot and slightly more details in the iPhone 17's image. But all of that can be noticed only if we zoom in, and that too a lot. Otherwise, most of these low light shots look very similar from both the phones. The colors also look more closer in these low light shots from both the phones. So even if you go with the iPhone 16, you won't be giving up a lot in terms of the main camera in lower lighting conditions. The wide camera is a different story. It's not as good as the main camera on either of these phones, so these ones switch to the night mode much sooner than the main camera does. And for the wide cameras, both of them takes 3 seconds or sometimes even longer to capture all of the light they need to make the shot look good. Once they are done with the process of capturing the image and processing it, you can clearly make out that iPhone 17's wide camera captures much brighter looking shots with more details. iPhone 16 on the other hand does well when there is a lot of ambient light, but when compared against one from the iPhone 17, it is no match, at least in lower lighting conditions. There are a lot of darker parts in the iPhone 16's wide night mode shots, and it also captures a lot less details. Thanks to the new 48 megapixel on the iPhone 17, it is able to capture much more information. It uses pixel binning to make each individual pixel bigger and hence capture more light and information even in these lighting conditions. So if you do a lot of your photography in lower light and you use your wide lens in these conditions, then iPhone 17 is clearly the one for you. That brings us to the front-facing cameras. While the selfies from the iPhone 16 looked good and colors and skin tones were also as they should appear, but there didn't seem to be as many details present as one would expect. Apple had been using the same selfie camera on the iPhone 14, 15 and 16, and I have been asking for an upgrade since quite some time. I am finally delighted that we got a massive upgrade with the iPhone 17. It gets a new 18 megapixel sensor which is almost 2 times as big as the one on the iPhone 16, and this shows in the selfies. We see much more details in its images. Its lens is also now much wider, so when you have multiple people in the shot, the frame can now get wide enough to accommodate all of them. And the best thing is, because it's a square image sensor, you can take landscape selfies while holding the phone in portrait orientation. All of this makes the selfie camera on the iPhone 17 the best upgrade according to me. If you're someone who takes a lot of selfies, you should definitely go with the iPhone 17 just for the selfie camera and consider every other upgrade as an add-on thing that you will get on top of that. Story remains the same for portrait selfies as well. Faces naturally appear sharper in these because everything else is blurred out. I would say edge detection needs a bit of refining on the iPhone 17 and it will definitely get better with software updates. For the purpose of this video, I have kept the f-stop number to f2.8, but if you want your portrait selfies to look the most natural, then you should have it set to something between f4.0 or f5.0. And if you're looking to have multiple faces in your portrait shots, make sure to have each and every one of them stand as close to you as possible. Or else, only the face which are closest to the camera will be in focus and rest of them will be blurred out. So for the selfies, any kind, may it be normal or portrait, I feel like iPhone 17 definitely comes on top. Here's a video from the front-facing camera of the iPhone 17 and the iPhone 16. You can see how both these phones handle the overall colors of the scene, exposure and stabilization when I'm walking around with them. The audio that you are listening to right now is also being captured internally, and I'll be switching between the audio from both these phones so you guys can see how both of them handle the audio as well. Now the iPhone 17 gets a much needed improvement in its selfie camera. It now gets a 18 megapixel square image sensor, whereas the iPhone 16 gets a 12 megapixel traditional sensor. Now because the image sensor on the iPhone 17 is square, so if I wanted to, I can keep on holding the phone in portrait orientation and the video can still be captured in landscape mode. Here is a quick example of how that looks like. Videos have always been great from iPhones. You pick up any iPhone, may it be 17, 16, 15 or even the iPhone 12, and you will find that its videos still look amazing. As you can see, the 4K video is incredibly detailed from both of them. And I can actually see color science from the iPhone 17 being applied in videos as well. You can clearly see its colors being slightly better. No matter where you shoot these videos, you can find that both the phones are doing an excellent job. This video was shot indoors under artificial light and you can still see how wonderful the colors look. And even though there are a few brighter and darker areas in the video, there is barely any noise creeping in. This means the image processing on both the phones is doing a wonderful job. I get a lot of questions from people who are looking to start vlogging channel or want to start shooting videos with their phone, and which phone should they go with for this purpose. And my answer almost always is to go with an iPhone which fits in your budget. And after getting the phone, a lot of them come back and tell me how thankful they are for the recommendation. For videos, both these phones are almost on equal grounds. You can go with the iPhone 17 if you can see that its videos look good in this comparison, or else you can save some money and go with the iPhone 16. But remember that iPhone 17 comes with 256 GB of storage, whereas the iPhone 16 comes with 128 GB. And if you plan on shooting a lot of videos, you will need the extra storage which the iPhone 17 offers. Low light videos also look amazing with very little noise in them. But the light flares that you see here are an issue, and I think this looks more annoying in the videos than it does in the images. And for now, there's just no way around it. But don't worry, they don't show up in all of the low light videos. Alright, so with that, we have seen 200 image and video samples from both these phones in all sorts of lighting conditions. And what we have observed is that the iPhone 17 captures slightly better colors, better contrast, handles HDR situations a bit better, its ultra-wide cameras delivers detailed and sharp results, and the new selfie camera is on a whole new level, making it the overall better phone in this comparison. That being said, which one's for you definitely depends on your budget and the kind of photography that you do. If you are someone who takes a lot of your images in lower light, or if you use the ultra-wide lens a lot, or if you are into macro photography and you want a phone with the cleanest results, or you take a lot of selfies, then definitely go with the iPhone 17. Personally, I would go with the iPhone 17 for the front-facing camera alone, and it also gives me 256 GB of storage compared to the 128 GB of base storage on the iPhone 16. But if these things are not as important to you, or if you take most of your images during the daytime, or if you did not notice that big of a difference between their image and video samples, then you can save some money and go with the iPhone 16. So after checking out all these image and video samples, what do you think about the cameras on both these phones now? And if you are trying to decide between these two phones based on their cameras, which one would you go with? I would love to hear your choice and possibly the reason for it, so please let me know in the comments. That is it for this video guys. Please hit the like button if you enjoyed this video and subscribe to the channel for a lot more quality tech videos like this. You can also check out some of the other videos from this channel. This has been Sagar and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care.